Waiting for us to go live. And there we are. Alrighty. For us to go live. And I've got to do my ritual here. And there we are. Alrighty. Ritual is completed. I have to remember to always turn off the volume on my Twitch account while I'm broadcasting or recording. All right, welcome. This is Choresday, and as you can look at the clock and see, I'm about 40 minutes later than I intended to be. It's typical of a chores day that the things you want to do don't necessarily happen when you want to. For those of you that may not be familiar with the channel, I'm Jonathan Albin. I'm your host, and I am, I suppose you'd say I'm just a guy, but I'm a professional game designer and writer and publisher of written materials of all sorts. And I started this program probably about a year and a half ago, and that was when I changed my calendar. Actually, it was a little bit longer ago than that. When I was doing one of my many other jobs, I was actually a driver for Uber and Lyft and traveled around all of Southern California from Antelope Valley to Mexicali. It's a big zone, so to speak, and I realized that my schedule was no longer the same as anybody else's. I no longer had to worry about the Monday blues, and I didn't have to worry about hump day, and I didn't have to worry about Friday. Instead, I just could live the life that I want to live, and so I redefined the names of the days of the week. And so in the process of doing so, I've found that there are other people that would like to adhere to the same kind of a schedule. So last week I kind of went over the days of the week. Chores Day, of course, is a corruption of the word Thursday. So Chores Day doesn't quite work, but it is the day that I do generally all of the mundane things of life to keep operational. Clean out the garbage disposal. Take out the trash and do the laundry. Do the trash and take out the laundry. I can't remember which, but I started this program specifically to talk about the kinds of things that I have found that are effective for helping me change my life to become more agile, to be able to do the other things that I want to do. And so in the renaming, just to go over real quickly again, Sunday and Monday both were converted to fun days because my life is, everybody thinks that it's not fair that I have 2 fun days a week, and that's because my life is twice as fun as everybody else's. Tuesday is News Day, which you would probably already know if you've noticed on my channel. I do News Day for Tuesday. Wednesday is Friends Day, and thus far I haven't been able to actually implement what I intend to do with Wednesdays. What I'm planning on doing is coordinating with people that are on my friends list from Facebook, reintegrating them back into my life by having conversations with them, seeing what they're up to, and all of that, and try to do that if I can get their permission to do that on screen. In addition to that, therefore, we have Thursday, which is Chores Day, and then we have Friday, which is either, depending on how you look at it, it's either why day, so it's when I do things that are really important to me, the things that drive why I'm doing the things I'm doing, or it's my day, which is I just do something off the wall, off the cuff that I want to do that has nothing to do with anybody else. And then Matter Day, and Matter Day is not fully developed yet either, in that I do use it for assisting others with things. Inevitably somebody wants to do a move or whatever, and so Matter Day is the day I'm going to go and help them do that kind of thing because it's important. Eventually I'll be doing charity work and bringing you guys with me when I go to do those things and such, when I start to figure out how the video portion of recording would be, but not there yet. So with all of that, we're back on Chores Day, and so today was particularly hectic. We obviously didn't get back in time for me to be here at my appointed schedule, so this is part of the reason why I have in other frames of work I have the moniker of Commander Clueless, because I tend to schedule things and even sometimes double schedule them because I just know I want to keep my life full of things, and so I'm always saying yes and then having to bite the bullet and be seen as a goofball sometimes, or flaky, or however you want to say it. But this week in particular, I want to talk about the things that you have to do that are not things that you do regularly. And I don't mean, that sounds so bad. For example, you have to do laundry, you have to do clothes washing, but if you have an ample amount of clothing, you can go, maybe 2 weeks without washing out all again. What I have found, though, is that it's easier on a weekly basis to wash what's necessary on Thursdays, and I usually do that in the early morning hours. Because of my schedule, I don't have a start hour for when I actually do any particular specific job, because I do so many hours of writing and so many hours of editing and so many hours of video preparation, things like that. But one of the essences of that temporary or once in a while work is that they tend to pile up because you're able to push them off a little bit further. So one of the awarenesses I've come about that I hope that this stream will help you with is the realization of immediacy versus urgency versus importance. In life, there are different graduations of value we place on things, actions, and such like. And if you can't differentiate or discern between them, they can get really muddled. And it's hard to stay on focus to do something you really want to do. Like in my case, I really want to get the Passages RPG, the Nikos RPG roleplay system out there. I want to share it. But there are things you have to do first. And one of them is that I'm doing a couple of different patent searches on particular aspects of the game because they're so innovative. Nobody else is doing them at all. No one's even thought of them. So theoretically, the patent process should be pretty quick because there's no one else that's done anything on this order. And the only reason I'm doing it is that I realize that as soon as I have a patent out there, there will be people that will take the idea and run with it. I just want to be far enough out in front of it, so to speak, with the identity of the concept. And I can't even, I'd love to get, push the envelope and tell you guys some part of what that's going to mean, but I really can't. So I only mention that because you don't go looking for patents every day. And so one of the chores was to do some of the legwork of getting ready for that. I had to, discern who was going to be my attorney and how I was going to approach it and what kind of framework of time and such like. So with that in mind, I do want to mention that we do use Patreon. If you notice down below, there's patreon.com/Nikos, which is one of my ways of generating the revenue to do things I want to do. And so one of the minor goals that I've added to that is to generate the revenue to do if you will, the phase 2 of the patents. I've already got the first part on its way. Matter of fact, I got my first couple of investors online in the last couple of days. And so we have some movement towards that objective. But now I'm looking at this secondary and tertiary and so on. And the big thing, remember we talked about stuff piling up? I created a lot of material in the last couple of years for the purposes of having passages ready to go. And I'm getting them tested, but one of the big fallouts or shakeouts from that test is that I actually gave too many options in character creation. What should have taken in my first actual alpha test of a game master teaching the game to players that don't know, and when he himself didn't know the rules. I was shaking it out to see whether or not it was possible to learn from the base rules without having to have had a demonstration, etc., etc. Which leads me to the next part, is that we'll be doing explainer videos in the futures. And so one of the things that will happen on some of these show days is there may be a delay, only because I'll be working on creating some of those. the number of hours I'm generating in video has everything to do with the fact that I need visibility. I need you guys to see where I'm going. And so when I speak today and on Chores Days, I want to talk about the challenges that we have to accomplish our chores. And I'll be, like I said, the first one I mentioned is, and I'm not doing this in any kind of scheduled order. Of course, this is an example of how tweaked my life is. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a checklist here. But the first thing I have to say is that procrastination is the number one demon. And we can't overcome the persecution. Wow. That was awful. Yes, we can't overcome our resistance to doing things if we procrastinate. If we say, oh, I'm going to do it later. Oh, I'm going to do it later. For example, this show, I could have started this afternoon at about 4 o'clock and had it in the can recorded, the entire hour show, done right then if I had set my mind to it. But I was thinking, well, my show is supposed to be at 6 o'clock. I've got nothing else going on, no real challenges, etc., and here we are. When we speak of procrastination, I need to be clear, that is not the state wherein you have said, I want to do a thing, but I haven't begun it. That's not procrastination. Sometimes that's just pure planning. Sometimes that is recognition of the priorities you've already got in place, and that adding more logs on the fire is not a good plan. Where I'm talking about procrastination. Oh, by the way, I have to say, I have a friend of mine who says that I must be a procrastinator because he's just getting started and he's having the same problems, so that must make him an amateur procrastinator. Okay, you see my humor there. All right. So a procrastinator is somebody who's really good at it, who's done it a lot of times. And I would say somebody who began role-playing 48 years ago, who still hasn't published other than one single module his entire career professionally, that's a procrastinator. And actually, a lot of people, associates, a lot of other people that are game masters and storytellers would probably think that I'm speaking to them when I say that they are procrastinating because they're not moving ahead. But the reality is that not everyone wants to publish, and not everyone wants to do the work. And the reality is which part of the job do you like to do? And I can tell you right now, I'm greatly enjoying the relearning of the discipline necessary to do this. So it's been an eye-opener, and it's been a little bit of a swing in the wind. I'll be honest with you, this is wing and a prayer time, and your support and your affiliation with me through the Patreon is going to be immeasurable to that. But having said all of that, the issue of Chores Day is that you have to do what you have to do. So I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that I have to do that I've been delaying doing is beginning to create localized mapping for the Nikos frame of reference so that we can talk about the actual terrain, resources, and things like that when it comes to players and individuals getting involved with it. So let me show you. The original map of Nikos is rather extensive. There's an entire planet. Oh, my hand is in the wrong spot again. Let's get this. There it is. There, I've got it. I'm holding the whole world in my hands. Okay. The world of Nikos is, I believe I counted 13,880 some individual hexes. It might actually be a larger number than that. I haven't actually mechanically counted them, and I haven't even done the math recently, but it's a long distance. I do know that if you measured it from, see if I can get my hand in the right spot this time, Cryopathia in the north, all the way down to the bottom tip of Growland over here. There, so close. There you go. That space if you laid the United States across it, is wider than the United. That distance is almost a third longer than the distance from New York to California in a beeline. So, having said that, it's not nearly as large as this global world, and that's according to plan. I originally started this with the idea of it being a planetoid, roughly the size of the moon, a little bit larger. And this landmass was intended to cover the majority of it. Now, since then, it has been drawn to my attention that the way the map looks and the way it works out climatologically is that this is probably only the northern hemisphere, with Cryopathia at its center. If you can fuzz your eyes out enough and follow my imagination here, you'll see that the area of Cryopathia sort of looks like a unicorn with, see, woo, back. This is so fun, learning the spatial placement of my hand. Right there is the unicorn's horn, and it's facing that way. The large volcanic mountain in the center of the ice field is, if you will, the eye of the unicorn. Can't see any wings there, but they age. And then the nose or muzzle of the horse is represented by the other volcano down farther south and west. So that Cryopathian space was up until recently a complete ice field. The ninth iteration map is going to be considerably different because the ice fields have been melted and there is new terrain to be mapped in that primary open valley there. So we'll have some fun with that as well going forward into 2023 and closer to the ultimate launch of the Nikos RPG. But the map itself is useless in terms of demonstrating to players who are watching on stream where they are in reference to other places. So if you can imagine, I took this central spot, I'm going to come in from this side, right there, that central spot. I've done my first of my expansion maps as part of my chores for the day, and so I'm going to show that one to you now. Let's get this one. Goodbye and hello. Alrighty, so this is that land bridge that I used to do the opposite direction. It's not that direction, it's this direction. Yeah, this is that land bridge between Nordland and Growlin. Includes two countries completely, Elsadar and Tralara, and part of Shuntroa, which is the orange roughs and wildlands directly north of Elsadar. A little bit piece of Florin, which is the green emblem, and the, I'm going to do it again. Away from the camera. Here we go. Right here. This is Florin. And over here, this part here is the upper end of Draconia. And Draconia is a rather unimaginative name for it. I'll be honest with you, it was so named because the player was a new player and had chosen to play a Dragonborn, and early on made some conciliatory gestures towards some of the criminal elements, got financial backing, and has now been declared to be the Chosen. And so the reason for having the map like this in particular is, if you'll notice, that Eldrasar, the city that has the banner, that walled circle almost in the center of the map, is where my adventuring party has finally reached. It took them 3.5 months to get here in real time, and about half again that, so almost 5 months in-game time to get here. And they are on the beginning of the end of their primary mission, and therefore they're approaching with me the ending of the end of the 8th iteration. So Anyway, the point was this map had to be made, and which means they had to break out the old software, hexographer, that had been used to create the map in the first place. Well, let me caveat that. This map is actually dates all the way back to 1987 when I hand drew it on hex paper. It was Wizards of the Coast branded, or TSR branded hex paper back in those days. But I still have them. But so the maps have not morphed. The maps have, the nations have. The boundaries between places have changed over time. So, for example, what is now Tra-La-Ra was the greater kingdom of El Sadar, which went all the way from Khoram to Chantra, and now has been broken into many little nations. Old Maria, for example, is on this map. It's that small, let's see if I can do the pointing thing here. It's that small, right there, that little foresty section between the hills there. That's Old Maria, named for one of the champions of the 7th iteration, whose name was Olma. Yes, she was directly part of the Revening. So those of you that are familiar with the story, you're probably going to start shaking your angry fist at Old Maria. But Olma was a very well-meaning and brave barbarian who did everything she could to secure the northern reaches of El Sadar against the invasions that were coming down from the spiders. And in fact, she is responsible for decimating their nation because she got a hold of Harold, the magical, I should say, homicidal or genocidal maniac harp, and she released it upon the world, telling it to, if possible, kill all spiders. And its music had the ability to be devastating and destroy like that. So, man, I sometimes go way too deep on the Nyko stuff. I gotta calm it down. But I don't have anybody yet chatting with me and telling me hi and shut up about that kind of stuff and get back to chores. Which is, of course, what everybody always does, right? You're always working on an objective, and then you get going on something else, and then you go, oh, don't you remember you're supposed to be taking out the laundry or cleaning out the trash? I don't know what you're doing. So anyway, so the map is now complete, so that our Newsday report next week will be much more succinct. Of course, if I know adventuring groups, they will no longer be in Eldrasar by the time you guys actually get to see this map. But that's kind of the way it goes, right? The value of picking a day to do tasks and remembering that that's the day that you do them. When a task comes up that needs to be done, it's easier to do just that one chore because you know you're not starting into a day of work because that's all dedicated to a specific day of the week. Now, there is a real caveat here, and that is that you have to figure out a way to make to entertain yourself as you work, because if what you do is just simply divorce your work from your play, this does lead to the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. You need to be able to identify and recognize the essentials of human pleasure. For example, I don't mind at all creating videos sitting in front of a computer screen and playing with the apps and things like that to get the optimal image. And granted, I'm no Picasso. Nonetheless, the purpose for the communication devices that I come up with is to help convey the message that is driven by my storytelling. So, yes, the map doesn't really give you a lot, but play a session with me and you'll see what that's like. Speaking of, I'm going to try an experiment next week, and I don't know how it's going to work, and it'll probably be on Friends Day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a live stream, and I'm going to connect to my Discord as well. And anybody who subscribes to Twitch between now and next week, can be eligible to be a part of the play group, because if I see that you're subscribed, then I'm going to send you a submission inviting you to the Discord. And if you are amenable to that and want to be involved, the voice channel on Discord will be broadcast through the video that I'm going to do. Now, I'm not doing it as an attempt to create an online roleplay group. That's not what I intend to do. So, though the story is ongoing, it will be fundamentally each session a one-shot, because each time my intention is to have different players play. And that doesn't preclude you. If you want to be a player in my games, there are places and times that I do them. For example, and I didn't put up the logo for it, I should have, at Board Games Paradise in Redlands, California. Monday nights, I am currently running an open-fronted RPG. It is a Nikos story, and they are the ones that are currently in Eldrasar here, so you'd actually have a jump on it by knowing where you were going to be if you came to play. But there is they do have a table fee for playing games at the store. You'll have to coordinate with them for that. But my idea is to literally turn on my camera and start to tell a story, and anybody that jumps in can become a character in that story, and in theory become an RPC in the greater Tales of Nikos, because what I intend to use it for is to help players develop their characters for their own roleplay games by having them play a roleplay game with me. So we'll see how that goes, and make sure you tell your friends, because this is going to be innovative. It'll probably be, as I said, Wednesday, Friends Day. So that's a perfect way to invite your friends to learn how to play roleplay games, because I'll even be doing interim roleplay training 101, if you will, while we're playing. And notice I didn't say a specific game system, even though I could have. I actually am a big advocate for roleplay without borders, so to speak. I posit the theory that roleplay is a mechanism itself, and therefore it can be intertwined with any genre, any direction that the storyteller and the players want to go. So this will be in the Dark Shards environment, so it will be on Nikos, and fundamentally we'll be talking around, but we won't be utilizing the Passages RPG, the Nikos RPG roleplay system yet. But we will be talking about the kinds of things that will happen in game, and we will be doing what I call playgrounds, and that's the third tier roleplay system that I've developed, and that is basically roleplay without dice. And if you've never experienced that before, I recommend that you jump in and join me next week on Wednesday, and so you can get a kind of a feel for that as well. Now, I anticipate, with it being a first show and midweek, and more than likely, well, no, it has to be midday. It's got to be around 1 o'clock. I'll probably be missing the timing, as the Magic players would say, for most players. But my purpose for it is to engage and instruct on the merits of role play in an environment that I, as a game master, can embrace as many players as possible in as short a period as possible, because what I'm talking about, the revolution that I'm speaking of in role play, can be expressed without the mechanics. I know I lost a third of you right there, because you're so used to role play being a mechanical system. But what I'm proposing is not that. So if there was anybody out there that has any issues that you want to talk about and concerned with the challenges of Choresday, feel free to hop in now. I've only got about 10 minutes left before I need to shut this down for today. There's a there's a burning need I have to help you guys activate your imaginations and bring about imagination activation through role play and through the unbridling of thought processes. And that's unquantifiable. It falls into the same kind of category as dark matter and dark energy. We don't know what they are, but they are. And in this case, I know that the concept of the human imagination has been stunted, has been shifted because of the necessity of a rapid-fire governmental system that requires regimentation and knowledge of the pure points of data, which leads to, of course, the big data culture and industry expansion into places where artificial intelligence can crunch away, where the human mind can't go. But I propose to you that there is a psychosocial place where we as human beings must go to, must redevelop, and must re-engage at. And that is at the imaginative level that we had when we didn't know what we know. Yeah. Wow, for somebody who's all about fun, that got really serious really quickly. So, and that obviously is going to be a topic for It's Okay to Play. That's our Saturday show. So just know that there's an episode for everybody at a different time during a different period during the week. All the videos stay up here on twitch.com/passagesrpg for at least a couple of weeks. Once we get back to affiliate status, once we get the viewership required, then of course we'll keep it on here longer. Videos that don't stay here will be getting ported to a newer server you may not have heard of called Utreon. And Utreon, Utreon, like Patreon, is a process for supporting creators like myself that you might be challenged or interested in assisting. So realize that the Utreon targets are going to be on the development of improved and better video processing, video construction, things like that, whereas the Patreon is dedicated specifically to the Passages / Nikos RPG system. So if you believe in anything that I'm working on, please check out both the patreon.com, which is patreon.com address, which is below patreon.com/Nikos, or if you want to look at some of the beginnings collection of videos that I'm putting up under the Utreon label, that's at utreon.com/C/Nikos RPG. So we add on the RPG on that one. But I still have a YouTube channel. We're still going to be posting on YouTube. Some of those are going to be my longer form shows, and I will more than likely be doing my what do you call it? Audition requirements for another live stream RPG will probably be posted on YouTube rather than the others, because I want to get a fairer representation of who might be interested. I don't want to fall on the shoulders of my dedicated players over the years, because I don't want them to having to be competing with each other for the slots, because I'm only going to have at most 6 players in the live stream again. So there we are. This is we're coming up on the end of this episode of Choresday Chatter. Once again, we're through a full show, and the only person chattering was me. And I hope I didn't put you to sleep or drive you insane. I do want to thank you for your support thus far and for the eyeballs. And I would ask that you let everybody know that they need to start watching these shows, because this is going to be the start of a change in everything. I'm Jonathan Albin. I'm the Game Market Guru. My email address is thegamemarketguru@gmail.com or nikosrpg@gmail.com. Either one of those will work. And I'm also on Facebook as Jonathan G. Albin. Can't confuse me with any of the others, besides the fact that my beautiful, charming face is on the front page there. But thank you again for your time, and I hope to see you in the funny papers, as my grandfather would say. And let's keep it rolling.